Before I reveal my number 5, I just want to say that these are in no particular order in terms of how much we like them and enjoyed them. They're basically just a list, or at least mine is that way. So my number 5 is by no means the lowest rung of the tier, but for my number 5, we're going to be talking about one of my all-time favorites, the great He-Man, but also She-Ra at the same time because I'll get into it. So I put He-Man and She-Ra at the same as the same entry because they basically exist in the same world and are constantly crossing over to one another's shows. And what can I say about the show that was a holy gift from God? I'll ignore all the countless memes that we are able to make up from it now and focus how I saw it more as a kid. Yeah, there was still a few parts where I had questions that I was too young to ask. But these were the kinds of shows you couldn't let your kid pause for too often because more than likely one of those pauses would not look right, as an example. Yeah, lots of very, very questionable things happen in this show that when you grow up, you go, what the heck was that?
Yeah, definitely if you pause on shots like that.
But all joking aside, the shows were really enjoyable and fun. When there wasn't action, there was levity and slapstick humor. Again, the story isn't too deep. He-Man and She-Ra are brother and sister. Yeah, they're brother and sister, all right. They're brother and sister. Yeah, I mean, if you see the way they talk to each other and hold each other, sometimes I have questions. I have lots of questions about it, but definitely brother and sister. And they are the protectors of the respective worlds. He-Man is protector of Eternia and She-Ra of Etheria. And then there's their respective baddies that they have to fight against. Skeletor being He-Man's arch rival and Hordak being She-Ra's enemy. Except for She-Ra's plot line goes slightly deeper because while Skeletor is just some supervillain on He-Man's world, Hordak is something much different on She-Ra's. Hordak is the leader of a militant group known as the Horde that is trying to conquer Etheria. The Horde will control and take over towns and cities, imposing their rules and regulations on the people. She-Ra, or rather her normal form of Adora, is the leader of a rebellion to stop the Horde and free Etheria from their rule. Whereas all Skeletor wants is to take over Castle Grayskull to control its magical energy. So, not the same thing. Both shows you can pick up in the middle and be able to enjoy an episode or two. There's not really an ongoing story to follow up per se. Of course, there's lore and whom all the characters are and how they're related to one another, He-Man and She-Ra. But even that show didn't introduce all that until He-Man was out for a while. I think it was over a year, when they released the animated movie The Secret of the Sword, and that explained all the backstory and introduced He-Man and She-Ra, Prince Adam and Princess Adora, as long-lost brother and sister twins. The action and humor are really the best parts. There doesn't need to be a deeper story. It's enjoyable on its own in all the best ways. It's also a great time to go back now and watch old episodes and find all new reasons to laugh, like, why is the ship shaped like or why is that building look like a pair of, why is one man holding another man like that and thrusting vigorously? No means no. No means no. But being it for the action or the fun, He-Man and She-Ra need to be in my top 5. The show was and still is too great not to include it. So,
yeah, I mean, we got great pieces of media from it, like the best remix of all time with Hey Yeah.
Oh, God.
I love singing that song.
Also, there's a He-Man game coming out on Steam relatively soon. I don't think there's an official release date for it. But it's called He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Dragon Pearl of Destruction. And it is a side-scroller beat-em-up with all the old-school He-Man characters in it. There's He-Man, there's Man-at-Arms, there's Teela, there's Battle Cat, Orko is in it. And if you just go through Steam and you flip through the pictures, if you're familiar with He-Man, there is a bunch of nostalgia and characters that were in the episodes that just look super awesome, and I cannot wait to play this when it comes out.
Now, Anthony.
Yes.
I gotta ask you, did you know that He-Man had children?
What?
Yeah. He had 14 sons and 3 daughters.
What? With who?
Well, I don't know who, but it says in the Bible in 1 Chronicles 25, all these were sons of He-Man, the king's seer.
Wait a minute.
They were given him through the promises of God to exalt him. God gave He-Man 14 sons and 3 daughters.
Okay, well, I don't know if Teela's going to be pushing out that many kids, because if he was going to have children with anyone, that's who it would have been with. Because every single time, because Teela doesn't know that He-Man is Prince Adam. And so, therefore, she doesn't know that She-Ra is also Princess Adora. All she knows is that He-Man and She-Ra are brother and sister. So, when He-Man brings She-Ra around, you see Teela start to ask questions.
Putting 2 and 2 together.
Well, it's never officially known that they are like a couple or that they like each other or what have you, but there's definitely hints. They're not that direct, but there's definitely moments where it's like, you know, it's obvious the two of them care about each other and stuff like that. Because Teela is also a fellow warrior. She's the leader of the guard. You'll see, even like when it's He-Man and She-Ra, He-Man will sometimes get captured, She-Ra will sometimes get captured. It's not really a, you know, Superman and Lois Lane type of thing. It's a bunch of, pretty much everyone's a badass and can take care of themselves. Yeah. So, again, definitely up in my top 5. It's gotta be, because it was a show I watched a lot when I was a kid, and would still watch now. Actually, we watch the He-Man and She-Ra Christmas special every Christmas in Discord, so that's always a fun time. I know it's Morticia's favorite.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that with you the next time you play it then.
Yeah, we watch them around Christmas time, and we cringe in laughter at some of the shots that are in there, because I believe in one part there was a plane, or I should say a ship, that was shaped like a, well, yes, let's just say like a pickle, and a big hand grabbed it in a way that looked like something else, and I don't think they were trying to hide it. So yeah, but that's He-Man. That's my number 5. My number 4 has to be the Ninja Turtles, and so I've already gone in extensive into this. We already had an episode. Our first episode was about the Ninja Turtles from, you know, old school. And I mean, there's really not much more I can say about it. It was crime fighting, pizza powered field crime fighting. I could not have a list of cartoons without the Ninja Turtles. I absolutely adored everything about the show, from the humor to the action to the characters. This was something that came on and I instantly struck a chord with me. I was instantly hooked. I had turtle fever right away. So yeah, that's really all I can say about it. There's really nothing that deep into it that I can go. There's no deep storyline, no deep meaning. It's just that it was a really cool show and I absolutely loved it.
My sister forwarded me a TikTok showing me that they had a TMNT themed restaurant called Cowabungas.
Oh, that was out recently, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it just opened this year, so...
I thought it already closed.
Oh, maybe it was a pop-up, you think?
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad. But if it is still there, I would like to go.
Yeah, I would be down for that. But I think it was a pop-up, because I saw that around the same time the movie came out. When we went to go see the movie in theaters again. I think that's what it was for. I could be wrong. If it's a permanent thing, I'm going. Like, we'll go. But I think it was just a pop-up. We'll have to check on that.
I don't know. It still has the menu up, so unless they just didn't update it. But when I did go to their website, it did not. It had like an error on the mobile app. So oh wait, it pulled up. The website's still there. We might be in business, ladies and gentlemen. It looks good. Oh, they eat. This is great. You know, Pizza Hut, how they did well, I'm not sure if you were there, but some people in the audience would know Pizza Hut had a thing where if you read a certain amount of books, that you would get a free pizza slice or something like that. And they're doing the same too.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like it's open, so if so, let's go.
Is it in Illinois?
It is, it's in Chicago.
Oh, oh, goody. Great.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Oh, yes, I'm sure it'll be fine. We'll just get out of there before dark. You know, that'll be the key. Anyways, that was my number 4. Mine is My Pet Monster.
Ah, so you did put that one on.
I did. So, this is probably the most obscure cartoon on my list. Most people remember the stuffed animal of My Pet Monster, blue fuzzy monster with horns, pickle-looking nose, and sharp teeth with orange handcuffs that he could break apart. Which, as a kid, seeing those commercials for the stuffed animal, I had no clue how they did it. Because you put it back together. And it wasn't until I was nearly 40 when one of my friends got me the My Pet Monster for my birthday, because I always wanted one. I found out how you do it. It's like there's a missing piece of one of the links, and you clip it back together that way. But as a kid, I'm watching it going, how do they do that? And you could actually wear the handcuffs too. So yeah, this was responsible for a bunch of kids being kinky at an early age.
Join us for AC After Dark, only on Patreon.
Yes, join me for AC After Dark, where we'll be discussing orange handcuffs and kinkiness
and strangely shaped cucumbers.
Yeah, in the cartoon though, his nose was blue. They made it a lot less phallic, and it was blue. However, in the doll, it looks like a pickle, and I'm not even sure that's the original one. Mine's over there. Yeah, that looks pretty right.
That's a big old schnoz.
Yeah, and in the cartoon though, it's like a blueberry, not a pickle. But not many people I run into remember the cartoon show. I remember it being on Saturday mornings, but I don't think it ran for very long. The show is about 3 friends and, of course, My Pet Monster, or just Monster, or as Jill in the show would call him, Monzy. Chucky is the best friend / neighbor character, and then there's Max, who is the technically Monster's keeper / best friend, and then his sister Jill, who's the tag-along older one of the group, I guess. Anyway, the whole story is monsters from Monsterland, how he got here, why he's here, how they found him. I don't recall the show ever going into any of this. Maybe it did in later episodes, but I seriously recall zero lore or backstory. Kids got a blue monster from Monsterland and they hang out and do shit. Seems normal to me. But I guess they need to hide monster from everyone else.
Definitely. You know they want to stick up every sort of prong into this guy's cavities.
What?
They're going to probe him, figure out how he works.
We are not probing Monster.
Put him right into Area 51.
No. But yeah, that basically makes Monster starting to sound a little bit like Elf. Anyways, to hide Monster, they put him in orange handcuffs, and this somehow makes him transform into a stuffed animal of himself. Yeah, that was the transformation sequence. When they needed to hide him, he would become a stuffed animal wearing orange handcuffs and a lock, which is a very good product placement because that was what the doll was, or stuffed animal, whatever you want to call it. And when it's time for Monster to become Monster again, Max uses a key to unlock the lock on the handcuffs, and Monster turns back into full-size Monster with a clap of thunder and some wacky cartoon sound effects in the style of Woody Woodpecker. Not exactly the most discreetful way of hiding, if you ask me.
Sort of like Shazam, almost.
Yeah, because every single time he transforms, it's like, ooh, thunderclap, fireworks, monsterific. If you're going to do that every single time, he has to, you're going to get found out eventually. So, yeah, it's ridiculous. To say the very least, the show is over the top ridiculous. It's very Dennis the Menace very Dennis the Menace like. They're being an overly uptight neighbor that they annoy and constantly make the folly of their actions. You see, Mr. Hinkle, he swears he's seen Monster, but he doesn't know what he is, nor does he have any proof. He lives in constant suspicion and paranoia of Monster. When something happens and there's no proof and he swears it was Monster, but no one believes him and the kids won't admit it, so he looks crazy. Pure comedy gold. Mr. Hinkle also has a little poodle named Princess that Monster loves to terrify and scare any chance he gets just because he can. So he'll be crouching down by Max's foot and there's Princess and he's like, boo. And Princess just freaks the fuck out and falls over. Hysterical. Okay, so I guess Monster is a little bit of an asshole sometimes, but that's part of his charm. Another part of Monster's charm is his appetite. Being that he's always hungry and will literally eat anything, garbage being his favorite meal. What kind of garbage? I don't think we want to know. Apple cores, banana peels, half-eaten bread, fish bones are just some of the things that we were actually shown. I prefer not to know what wasn't. But truly like a goat, he can and will eat anything and everything. Meanwhile, with all of this going on, we have the villain of our show who pops up anywhere and everywhere for no reason, Beastor. Beastor is another monster from Monsterland, except he's evil and wants to eat Monster. He wears a pair of sunglasses at all times. Well, let me pull up a picture of Beastor here first. Boop, there we go.
Kind of almost looks like the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah, he sounds like him too. Like he's much bigger than Monster. But yeah, so he wears a pair of sunglasses at all times because Beastor hates light. It blinds him and somehow triggers his magical portal back to Monsterland, which is how he appears out of anywhere, which is how he appears out of nowhere most of the time, through a magic portal that can be placed anywhere he wants. Yet this guy still hasn't managed to catch Monster. Seems like a lot of work to go through for a meal. I mean, there must be other monsters in Monsterland. Why not go after them? What is he eating in the meantime? Is this show anything groundbreaking? Not at all. But the sheer craziness of it makes it a favorite of mine. Plus, Monster is one of my favorite cartoon characters of all time. He's a lovable, loyal, off-the-wall menace to the world and everyone around him. So pretty much Stitch before there was Stitch. So if you're feeling goofy and want to check out something insane, I'd highly recommend giving this one a watch. It is, I believe most of the episodes are currently on YouTube. And yeah, I would highly recommend jumping into this one because it's, in my opinion, it's hysterical. There's an episode where they babysit and Monster's trying to help, and he's just, it's going between taking care of the baby and joining in and encouraging baby's shenanigans. Because at one point he's like, baby, like jam? And baby is all like, yes, I love jam. And next thing you know, there's jam all over the walls. Yeah, and so does Monster.
Yep, babies do that.
Because they're like, hey, there's something fun here. Let's play with it. So yeah, that is my number 3. As my number 2, no surprise to anyone, should be the Transformers.
Oh yeah, he's gonna go real with us.
The Transformers, original Generation 1, except no substitutes. I think I've made my love for giant robots pretty well known, so it's no surprise that Transformers is on this list. For those of you unaware, the Transformers are alien robots from the warring planet of Cybertron. The Autobots, led by Optimus Prime, are the good guys, and they are at war with the Decepticons, led by Megatron. There's really no deep story or anything philosophical to analyze here, just warring robots that turn into cars, trucks, planes, and dinosaurs. That is alone to get a high mark of awesomeness from me. I watch the show every day and even had episodes recorded on VHS. Yep, even in the 80s, we sailed the seas, just less technologically advanced. All you needed was 2 VHS players, a blank tape, and a casual pirate for a father. Voila! Your very early on personal streaming service. One of my fondest experiences with this show actually involves my dad. I was sitting in front of the TV when he came home, and he said that he had a movie for me. Well, this is weird. Not that my dad brought home something for me, but it was never a movie. He took out a blank tape and put it into the VCR for me. The anime movie starts on a planet of robots that I've never seen before and didn't look familiar to anything that I watch currently. All right, so maybe this is something that someone told my dad I'd like. There's some robot kids running and playing, and some scientist robots walking down a hallway with some chemicals and beakers. They arrive at the lab and put the beakers on the table when suddenly everything begins to shake and the beakers spill, fall over off the table, and break. Scientist Bot runs to the window and sees an ominous-looking planet with a giant set of pincers in front of it, heading right toward their planet. Orvalus, look! It's Unicron! Yeah, I seriously have no idea what this is, but I'm not complaining. 3 minutes in and shit's about to go down, and with a planet attacking another planet. That's enough to keep me engaged for a while longer before I start asking questions. So the pincer planet, henceforth known as Unicron, sends out a tractor beam from his mouth, hole in the front of the planet. Yeah, so he shoots out this aggressive pillar of light and everything starts flying into his mouth. The pincers bore into the planet like it's a meatball and bring the planet to his mouth so he could munch on it like a squid would do to a fish. The robot people try to escape in their spaceships, but only one or two make it away from the destruction before another is pulled into the giant robot's munching planet, where we get to see the inner workings of a giant robot planet with flashing monitor screens, smashing pistons, conveyor belts, feeding metal into a furnace. All this used to fuel and give energy to Unicron. This is shown by his outer ring lighting up and glowing in the vastness of space as he floats away, leaving an empty void where a planet once was. Little kid me was both blown away and confused. Like, what the hell just happened, and what in the world is this? Then I heard the familiar start to the theme song. Not just that, but a rock version of the theme song, which makes it instantly better and more exciting. When I tell you I lost my mind, I really lost my mind. I went crazy. I was so excited. I didn't even know there was a Transformers movie that had come out. The marketing of this movie must have been minimum, or I just don't pay attention, both of which could easily be the right answer, mind you. But seriously, I would have known and perked up if I knew there was a Transformers movie. This one really slipped under my radar, but thankfully, Dad had my back. Transformers is one of the few franchises where their later stuff was really good and worth watching. And for those wondering, no, not the Michael Bay live-action movies. Those are trash, in my opinion. But also, they're trash. But while there's several incarnations I think are great and objectively better as far as writing and animation, the original Gen 1 cartoon will always be number one for me. It didn't need a deep storyline or fancy animation. The beauty was in the simplicity. The voice acting was all the perfect choices, and the original sound when they transformed was just so nice to listen to. In short, there's nothing like the original series, and that's why it's in my top 5 without a question.
Very good. Sly old ad, just slipping it under the radar. Yeah. Yep. I think I got something for you, might like it.
It was the weirdest thing that he did that because, like I said, he'd bring me home like a toy, once in a while, not all the time. It wasn't a regular thing. But when he brought me home a movie, I'm like, what? Because I didn't know like what movie it was. Like I said, I automatically thought this must be something that one of his friends who has a kid said, oh, he'll like this. And gave it to him. That was my impression. And then when I heard the freaking, beat of the Transformers song, I was hoping to get it on here because I freaking loved it. Just play the beginning part of it. It was like, holy shit, what the hell? Because again, I didn't know this existed. I did not see one commercial for it. I didn't hear about it on TV. None of my friends said anything. Nothing like that. So just to know there was a movie that came out was freaking insane. But the TV show, every single day would watch that. I loved everything about it. It was my go-to like action cartoon besides He-Man, of course. And because I didn't watch G.I. Joe. I couldn't stand G.I. Joe. It was too normal. It's like, yeah, they're army guys. Cool, I guess. And then later on, they tried to make them all different by giving them like their own personalities and making them something different. Like they had the sailor guy, then they had the fire extinguisher guy, and then they had they had all these different specialty guys. And I'm like, there's no giant robots, and there's no monsters, and nothing great about it. It's just soldiers, and it's boring, and blah, blah, blah. The only thing I liked about it was the freaking PSAs that came out at the end of every show. because that was when I would turn on the TV to watch Transformers, and I catch the end of that. But yeah, Generation 1 was by far one of my favorite cartoons of all time. Easily high up there in the list. All right, well, that leads me to my number one, and I know you guys are all asking yourselves, what could AC possibly have up his sleeves for this one? Because I've already done Transformers, I've already done He-Man, I've already done Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Well, the number one nostalgic cartoon on my list is none other than Muppet Babies.
Interesting.
It's because I'm a child of chaos, but you frying a little is a bonus. I kind of saw that coming. Anyway, so, and when I sat down to, now this is a long piece that I wrote. When I sat down to write this, I didn't exactly expect to spend so much time on it, but this was the better part of my day was made typing this out. I didn't know I had so much to say about Muppet Babies, and I'm pretty sure I skipped a bunch of stuff. So here we go. So, since I can remember, I've been a fan of the Muppets. Kermit was always a regular on Sesame Street, and the Muppet Show was always on in my house. At the time, I wasn't able to fully appreciate the guests they had on the show, as half of them, I had no clue who they were at the time. So while I was able to enjoy the zany antics and slapstick comedy, parts of the show were still a bit too adult for my tiny childhood brain. But every Saturday morning, a show would come on that I could fully get into, the Muppet Babies. I remember regularly asking my parents when the real Muppet Babies were on versus when the regular Muppets were on versus when the Muppet Babies were on. During the week, the Muppet Show, the weekend, Muppet Babies. The show took place in a single room nursery, which I'll get more into in just a second. The Muppet Babies were cared for by Nanny. Nanny was a human character who wore purple gym shoes with bright pink laces, a pink dress, a purple sweater, and her memorable two-tone green striped socks. Nanny's face was never shown. Well, that is if you don't count that time the Muppets were stuck in a scary imagination scene and the camera pans up to Nanny's face, only to reveal the face of a scary monster. But that's the only time something like that happened. Otherwise, Nanny's identity remained a mystery. This was done on purpose, of course, for very specific reasons. For one thing, the show is told through the Muppet Babies' point of view, so their perspective is much lower to the ground, so her face is not so close to their vantage point, giving the show a stylistic, childlike point of view. The other reason is for the audience. With Nanny's face never being shown, the audience could use their imagination and project their own thoughts and ideas of what Nanny really looked like. This helped Nanny be more personal to everyone and connect with the audience more. Funny enough, I don't remember how I pictured Nanny. I think at the time I literally just took her at face value. I was just waiting for them to show me what she looked like instead of me guessing. Being an only child, I didn't really have someone else to bounce ideas off of, so there was no one to trigger the question, what do you think she looks like? From what I do remember of how I pictured Nanny, she was a very vague image. She always had her hair styled in an updo kind of way, or her hair was shorter and curly. She had glasses, a soft and kind face, older but not grandma old, maybe just starting to show signs, but still not quite there yet. I guess this is similar to how the Muppet Babies would see her, a vague image, possibly always changing just slightly with the moment or the day. And that's something I truly loved about the show. It's told through the eyes of a child, or make you feel like you're watching through the eyes of a child. The single room nursery I said the whole show took place in, well, let me just reference the opening theme song for this one. When your room looks kind of weird and you wish that you weren't there, just close your eyes and make believe and you could be anywhere. With the power of imagination, you can go anywhere, do anything, be anyone you want. So every week, we all went on some kind of adventure. Sometimes they were big, sometimes they were small, sometimes they were scary, other times they were silly. From episode to episode, even from moment to moment, you wouldn't know where you'd end up. And it wasn't just fairy tale kids stuff. They went off and did their own version of The Wizard of Oz, Star Wars. There was even an episode where Spider-Man made an appearance.
Yeah, I think I saw that one. Or at least I saw the clip of where he appeared, and I thought that was pretty cool.
I've heard of raiding cats and dogs, but pigs and bears? Never. In the episode, they hit upon a very big element about Spider-Man that many people gloss over. Ralph the dog looks at Spider-Man, a Spider-Man comic, and realizes that Spider-Man could be anyone under that suit. He could even be Spider-Dog. And then we get a sequence of all the different Muppet Babies imagining themselves as Spider-Man, girl, dog, frog, pig, and yes, even Spider-Animal, which turns out to be Animal and Gonzo somehow stacked in a suit to make a full-size man. We don't ask questions here. Stan Lee also made an appearance in that episode. He's writing the comic strip the scene is taking place in. He scolds the kids for fighting over who the real Spider-Man is, to which the Muppet Babies end up covering him in silly string from their web shooters that they can't control. A nice little fourth wall breaking joke. I would have watched the show every day if it was on that often. Luckily, most Saturday mornings, they'd run several episodes in a row and I'd be glued to the TV that whole time. Truly, the imagination and humor in the show was fantastic, to the point where I'd still laugh at it today. I really do appreciate when a kid's show doesn't talk down to a kid. Things can be more playful and lighthearted without a spoon-feeding nonsense, which is something I think became a huge issue with later generational kids shows. Muppet Babies didn't treat the audience like babies. Sure, there were lessons taught and learned, but it was done in a genuine way instead of being shoved down your throat. Another thing I enjoyed was the variety of different characters, each with their own interests and personalities, except for Kermit. Wait. Let me explain. You could say that Kermit was the adventurous leader, but all the characters were adventurous in their own way. It's not like any of them were exactly shy about jumping into an adventure. Heck, Skeeter would probably enter an alligator wrestling competition if given the chance. And as far as the leader goes, none of them are actually the leader. While they do join in and participate in each other's imaginations, they're still individuals, not a team, with a single goal in mind. So then what is Kermit? Kermit is average, and that's okay. Because besides being the most popular Muppet of all time, Kermit is there to make sure everyone has a friend they can identify with. While the others all have their own specific personality quirks and interests, Scooter's a smart one / computer nerd, Fozzie's the jokester, Piggy's the girly girl princess, Skeeter's the athletic sporty tomboy, Rolf is the musical one, Gonzo's the weird one, and Animal is the insane baby. If you don't really identify with one of these more specific archetypes, you always have Kermit. My favorite was always Gonzo. I mean, really, can you imagine that? My favorite is the weird anomaly who is a random goofball. Of course it is. I can't say that I understand his obsession for chickens. As I'm writing this, I just had an epiphany. I was 8 years old when I realized that chickens that would follow Gonzo around everywhere was a metaphor for chicks, or more specifically, groupies. So the chickens were supposed to be women that were swooning over Gonzo. So Gonzo was a whore. Well, just ruined my childhood. Tune in next time where we will discuss real estate and if owning a bidet is the right option for you. Anyway, all joking aside, this cartoon was one that had a big impact on my childhood. The show's perspective made it super easy to feel like you were in the nursery with all of them and going on the adventures with them instead of just being a lone bystander. So while we aren't ranking these in a particular order, Muppet Babies ranks very high in my top 5 nostalgic cartoons of all time. Looking back on this cartoon, I realized a lot of things that it wasn't, I mean, yeah, it was for kids, but it didn't talk down and spoon feed kids things. And like I said, they jumped around to all these different IPs. Like they even did Lucy and Ricardo at one point. Yeah, they did all sorts of stuff. They did some stuff that was a little scary sometimes, like they'd be like a horror story. Their Spider-Animal, which funny enough, this is a cell from the 70s version of Spider-Man. And then they just replaced it with Animal's head, which was, again, one of my favorite episodes. And then here's the one with with Stan Lee in it right there. He gets his hand covered with silly string, and I think he looks at the camera and says, "Kids." Because they're all fighting over who the real Spider-Man is. Meanwhile, the criminals are in the background getting away with whatever they're stealing, So the real Spider-Man has to go and stop them while they're all fighting amongst each other. But yeah, like, you know, Gonzo was always like the goofy one, so he was always my favorite. And then you had Animal, who was just the one word comic relief. There's them doing Star Wars. You had Kermit as Luke Skywalker or Skyhopper. Piggy was Princess Leia. Scooter and Skeeter were R2-D2 and C-3PO. Gonzo was Han Solo. Fozzie was Chewbacca. Animal was Darth Vader. And I don't know who that little person... That's Rolf. Oh, Rolf was... yeah, he was Obi-Wan. Yeah. They did the Ninja Turtles at one point. Then you had Bunsen and Beaker that would come over randomly. They were like their random friends. There's Gonzo hanging out of acting as the legs for Spider-Man, even though his body is not that long. So how they filled up all these different appendages is a mystery to me. They did Cinderella, where Miss Piggy was Cinderella for some apparent reason, even though that doesn't seem right to me. But they did all kinds of stuff. Like I said, I watched them constantly, and I would still watch them today if I can find the old episodes. Because they would, like I said, they would go into random movies. They did Indiana Jones. They did all kinds of stuff. And it was just like a different adventure every single week. And it wasn't always just one thing. Sometimes they would jump in and out of movies and stuff like that. And you'd pan back to this nursery, and they're just in the nursery playing. But they used their imaginations and turned everything into a fantasy. And it, like I said, just the humor in it was fantastic. I absolutely love this one. This is definitely my number one. Not necessarily on a... I don't know if I would put it as my number one if I had to put them in a ranking, but it would definitely be up there. Be fighting for top competition. Because I looked forward to this every week. Loved watching this one every single week. And thank goodness they had multiple on in a row, because otherwise I'd be like, what the heck? Yeah, because like the real life Muppets, they were fun and all, but this, I mean, like an animated series was just more my interest at the time. You know, now I can go back and watch the real Muppets and laugh at a lot more. But back then, it was limited to what I can laugh at. And then they have random actor or actress who I had no clue who they were, and I'm like, I don't get why I don't know who this person is, why they're funny, or what.
Yeah, there were for sure a bunch of actors that I didn't know, but I think you didn't really need to, because they would just act like a character for the Muppets. And that's what I liked about the show. I think you do have to be a little bit older to really fully enjoy it, just because there's a lot of humor that would go over a kid's head. I don't know how old you were when you watched Muppet Babies.
Probably like 3 or 4 till about 8.
Okay.
Maybe if it was on that long, yeah, I'd probably say that.
Yeah, because I could totally see it being more for you than the regular Muppet Show, because this is more geared towards kids.
Well, yeah, like the Muppet Show was geared for like everybody, pretty much.
Right.
You know, but I still didn't get any of the jokes, or you know, when they would have like a back and forth with one of the characters that they'd have on the show, I wouldn't get it. Like, I've gone back and watched older episodes of the Muppets, and now it's a little bit funnier because it's like, oh look, they have Alice Cooper on.
Mm-hmm.
That's hysterical, because I know who Alice Cooper is now. I didn't know who he was then, and I don't remember seeing him on the show at all. They had Vincent Price on there. They had Doug Henning. They had pretty much any actor or actress that was big at the time. They had Sylvester Stallone, so they had Rocky on there. But that part always kind of glossed over me. Like, when they would come on, I would just kind of be like, wee.